Okay, so today we're going to be dealing with some of my pre-made notes from maths. So this is tailored towards the Junior Cert Higher Level Maths course, and we'll be starting with factorizing today. When we're factorizing, there's a number of different methods that we can use here. So, for example, if you have a certain equation where you have the same variable in, say, two different terms, you can pull that same variable out. So over here on the left, if we look at what we have here, we have 2x plus x cubed. Now, there's a term of x in this because x cubed is x times x times x. So what we can do is we can remove an x in this here. That leaves us with 2, because x times 2 will give you back 2x. And it'll give us x squared over here because x times x squared will give us x cubed. A more complicated version of that will then be, over here we have an x in everything. So we can pull out an x, but also everything here is divisible by 2. So as a result, you can pull out 2x instead. So that'll be 2x times 3x cubed. If you multiply that in, you'll get 6x to the 4 back. You'll then get 2x times x will give you back 2x squared, and 2x times 2 will give you 4x. On to an even more complicated example. If we have a look here, we can pull out a 2 from the two of these here. If we pull out the 2, that's going to give us 2 times p plus 2q. Now if we do something similar over this side, if you look, there's a q in both of these terms here. So if we pull out q, you're going to get p plus 2q again. That is the same as multiplying the bracket 2 plus q times the bracket p plus 2q. So we can write it like this down here. Moving on to the difference of two squares. If we have a look at this, we've x squared minus 9. So if we take the square root of each of these factors, write x plus the square root of this, x minus the square root of this, and the reason it's x, because if you multiply out the brackets, you'll end up with an x times x term, it gives us x squared. So we write x plus 3, x minus 3, simple as that. A more complicated example might be 4x squared minus 64. We have a 4 in each of these terms, so we can pull out a 4. After we pull out the 4, we have x squared minus 16, which, as in the same method above here, we're going to find the square root of this, square root of this, x plus 4, x minus 4. Moving on to something you might see towards the end of an exam, you'll end up with 3x squared minus 27y squared. We have 3x squared minus 27y squared. Now there's a 3 in each of these terms. We can pull out a 3, and that leaves us with x squared minus 9y squared. Now again, finding the square root of this, which is x, we're going to put that as the first term here, and the first term here. And then we're going to go plus in one bracket, minus in the other bracket. And then we just take the square root of this, which is going to be 3y. Plug that in there, and in here, and there's your answer. Now alternatively, the way you can write this might be 3 times x squared minus 9y squared. Now you can write that like so: x 2b squared minus 3y 2b squared, and then move down to the 3x plus 3y x minus 3y that way if you feel more comfortable, but of course that is totally up to the person. Next, quadratics. So when we're solving quadratics, we need to have a look at what is going on over here. So this term is given by x times x. So that here determines what we're going to have here and here. The product of this and this is going to give us this first term. This middle number here is going to be given by this x times this number, and this number here times this x. And lastly, this number here is going to be given by this number multiplied by this number. So we can use that knowledge to solve a quadratic. And the reason being is, if we look at this number here, so to get these two brackets at the bottom, what we're going to do is we're going to find the two numbers, or as many numbers, as we can find, that multiply by each other to give this number here. So plus 1 can be given by the product of 1 and 1, but it can also be given by the product of minus 1 and minus 1. So now, once we have these numbers here, we have to come over and look at this number here. Basically, this constant here before the x is given by the sum of the two numbers you've selected here. So we have a minus 2 in front of the x here. So what we need to do is sum two numbers over here together to result in minus 2. They're the numbers that we're going to put down here. So clearly 1 and 1 don't add to give minus 2, so it's obviously going to be minus 1 and minus 1. So that's where we get x minus 1 times x minus 1. Another example over here, which is slightly more complicated. We need to look at this first term. So we have a 2x times x gives this term here. So we're going to put 2x times x down in the brackets below. Next, we're going to look at this 2 here. Now, plus 2 is given by the product of 2 and 1, or the product of minus 1 and minus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to experiment and see whether 2 times one of these numbers plus 1 times the other number, or the other way around, will add up to give us minus 5. So if we check, 2 times 2 plus 1 times 1 gives us plus 5. That's not what we're looking for. So if we go 2 times minus 2 plus 1 times minus 1, that'll give us minus 5. That's exactly what we're looking for. As a result, we're going to pick 2x minus 1 times x minus 2. Now, to make sure that we're going to be multiplying the right number, we need to make sure that this 2 here multiplies the 2 over here. So this minus 2 goes over in this bracket as opposed to in this bracket. So I'm going to do a quick example again here. So let's say we take x squared minus 5x minus 6. So I'm going to do a quick example here. We're going to take x squared minus 5x plus 6. So I'm going to do a quick example over here myself. So if we go minus 5x minus 6. Okay, so the two brackets we get when we factorize this are going to be given by, okay, so firstly we want to find out the first two x terms. Well, we have an x squared here, so that's going to be given by x multiplied by x. So they're the two terms we have here. Next, we're going to look at this and see what two numbers multiply to give that. So we have 3 and 2. One of them has to be negative, so I'm then going to write 3 and minus 2. But we also have 6 and minus 1 and minus 6 and plus 1. So now, we only have a 1 in front of each of these. So we don't need to worry about multiplying any numbers times these. We just need to figure out which of these numbers add to give minus 5. If you look at this pair, minus 6 plus 1 gives us minus 5. So that gives us our answer. Plug all this into the square root. You get that all over 2 times 3, which is 6. An important thing to note is that there are some quadratic equations that we cannot solve using the methods I outlined above. Now, if you are directed to find something to a certain number of decimal places, that means you have to use a certain equation. That's known as the minus b equation. Now, you might have seen this before. It tells us that our x values are equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, these A, B's, and C's are defined by these numbers in front of the x squared, and the constant. So the number in front of the x squared will be your A. You probably denote that the sign is included. That's your B, and that's your C. So subbing them in, you'll get this. Minus times minus 4, don't forget to include the minus. Plugging this into your calculator, you're going to get out that your n equals 4 plus or minus root 84 over 6, which is, you separate out the plus or minus, you're going to have 4 plus root 84 over 6, or 4 minus root 84 over 6, which then becomes these in the end. Place them into your calculator and write them as decimals to 2 decimal places, and you are done. So thanks for watching. If you like these type of videos, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Thank you.